Yo, what's going on, everybody? Uh, so it's been a week or two. It's been a uh, wouldn't say not bad week, but things are pretty much going as it normally does. Trying to figure out new places to go, new things to see. Definitely a pain. A lot of my orders went through. A lot of my orders are coming in. I think I'm finally finished with my Godzilla DVD collection. I'm hoping. Got another Godzilla book coming in. Some G.I. Joe classifieds. It's non-stop. However, as you saw last week, we hit a book off. We actually hit a few other stores. We had fun. Spent money that we don't have, which is always fun. Still need to start doing some unboxing, so hopefully soon. But, I did pick up a Funko last week. Peter Venkman, Slimer, from the Real Ghostbusters cartoon series. I have the movie version. Figured that's all I wanted, but truthfully, Real Ghostbusters was one of my favorite cartoons, one of my top. Not top 5. Possibly not top 10. Definitely have to go through a lot of my stuff. But now I do kind of want to go backwards and collect some stuff I missed for Funkos. And it comes with Slimer, so that's pretty cool. There's all 4 of them. I think the next one will probably have maybe Stay Puft, maybe Janine. But it helps to finish my cartoon series. I definitely want Gargoyles. Definitely still looking for Underdog. Still a couple more cartoons, Funkos I want to get. Now I kind of want to get gummy bears. I'm thinking Gruffy or Zummy. Zummy because he was basically the magic holder. Gruffy because he kind of reminds me of me. I don't know. Weird. So besides the Real Ghostbusters Funko, I did pick up a few more comics. Some harder to find comics. G.I. Joe number 23, The Capture of Cobra Commander. Honestly, I thought it'd be a little bit more expensive. Got a great price on it. Yes, G.I. Joe caught Cobra Commander in the very beginning, put him into a prison up in a secluded wintry area, and it was Storm Shadow who came to rescue the commander. Uh, there is definitely a few more G.I. Joe comics I definitely want. Picked up G.I. Joe 35, more Dreadnoks fun. I really don't remember this story, but I mean, it's the Dreadnoks. I think there was, besides the original one that they appeared in, this one, I think there was one more comics that was almost centrally around the Dreadnoks, the three of them. And then in the future, Xandar and Road Pig shows up, and I think there's several comics surrounding Road Pig, which is pretty insane. Uh, I do want to get the Rattler comics with Wild Weasel. Excuse me. So I really don't remember all of the comics. I do want to get the issue where Destro takes off his helmet and Cobra Commander takes off his masks and leave Cobra. But I did pick up this one, G.I. Joe number 58, Cobra Commander Reborn. If you have not read this one is definitely an important comic. That's the real Cobra Commander. I forget what happened to him. I think he was in a car crash. Several members of Cobra came to pay their respects because they thought he was dying. This is Crimson Guard, Fred. I think Fred 5 or Fred 7. Who in the comics finds the Cobra Commander battle armor that has never been worn until this episode, or this comic, dons it and makes people believe he is Cobra Commander. Which then, Cobra Commander is reborn, but it's not Cobra Commander. And the hilarious part is this is actually the last comic we actually see the original Cobra Commander for a long time, as Serpentor has... Oh, that is another comic I would love to get. I do have the reprint. I would love to get one of the originals of Serpentor, being the origins of Serpentor. But Serpentor has control over Cobra. Fred meets Raptor and Cristobal, forms an alliance, comes back, takes over half of Cobra, while the other half is with Serpentor. And they start a huge civil war. Zartan leaves Cobra, starts training Cobra Commander's kid, Billy, who is, I believe I don't know if it happens afterwards, but Billy tries to shoot, I think Billy tries to shoot Cobra Commander before his father. And then Storm Shadow stops him, stops Destro from killing him. Billy kind of disappears, but we find out that Storm Shadow was actually training Billy to take over, I guess, a spot somewhere. And he actually tells Billy that the commander is his son. Then all of this happens and Billy goes off with Zartan to train under Zartan, which then ends up Storm Shadow, another book I would love to get, where Storm Shadow turns face or good guy, and Billy turns good guy and starts helping the G.I. Joes. It's a very complicated story for the G.I. Joe storyline that is insane how they've, I guess, kept up with the story. In the end, the real Cobra Commander comes back. It is a three-way civil war when they find out that Armored Cobra Commander is actually a Crimson Guard named Fred instead of the real one. I think Serpentor kills him. Then Zartan kills Serpentor. The real Cobra Commander has had enough with everybody and takes all the traitors, including Zartan, and the body of Serpentor, puts in all of them into a cargo hole in a cargo ship, and then literally drowns the ship. But we find out later several of them survive. Several of them die. Serpentor stays dead. The real Cobra Commander kind of comes or takes the suit, but in the end he gives it up because it's not him. But then the story kind of goes away from Cobra Commander as it goes more on Destro and his Iron Grenadiers and all the new characters that popping up in Cobra. It's a crazy story. 88? Hundreds? It's all in the G.I. Joe Compendium. Definitely a must read. Like I said, if you see my videos, there's 4 compendiums. I believe 1 and 2 is out. Or is 2 coming out? There is 4 books. Definitely need all 4 for the entire series. But between the Marvel G.I. Joe and the Marvel Transformers, I definitely like the G.I. Joe storyline a whole lot better than I did with the Marvel storyline. But the Marvel Transformers did have a few things that was great about it. One of it was this issue, Transformers number 40. I believe this series only has 88 comics. 82, 88. This is where the Pretenders are introduced. And the return of Optimus Prime. It's a great issue. Not the best, but out of most of the Transformers stories, that was one of the better issues. There are a few Transformers comics I'd love to get. The introduction of the Constructicons, the introduction of the Stunticons and the Aerobots, the introduction of, a lot of comics. One of my gripes, one of my hatreds of what Marvel did with the Transformers comics was the leadership of the Decepticons. So in the Transformers comics, the Autobots side made perfect sense. The leader was Optimus Prime until Transformers the movie. He dies, Rodimus takes over. In comes Fortress Maximus, who takes over leadership. Fortress leaves, Grimlock takes over as king. I mean, yeah, that part doesn't make sense, but it kind of does. Because Grimlock is the leader of the Dinobots, the leader of the first Autobot group. I mean, it just makes sense. The Dinobots are the most powerful Transformers compared to most. If Rodimus isn't there, if Fortress isn't there, leadership goes to Grimlock. And then, of course, they do bring back Optimus Prime in the future. It makes sense. The Decepticon version is, it goes from Megatron, to Galvatron, kind of back to Megatron, but then everybody's killed and it goes to Ratbat. Is a tape, cassette to Soundwave. But Soundwave isn't even there. I mean, you have the Constructicons, you still have the Stunticons. Technically, Starscream's still there. How does the leadership go to Ratbat? Then Ratbat dies and it goes to Bludgeon. The new leader of the Decepticons, who's not even the leader of the Pretenders, the group that he's part of. It literally never made sense. And the story seemed like it was all over the place with the Transformers. In the beginning, they tried to keep it consistent, and then it just seemed like writers started disappearing, so they kind of threw stuff in. And it got to the point where, so the fourth comic book for Transformers, they guest starred Spider-Man, which makes sense. Marvel, throw in a Marvel character. Hopefully it opens up people that are fans of Spider-Man to pick up Transformers. I get it. Then you bring in a whole new character called Circuit Breaker, who can literally destroy Transformers on her own. Okay. Put her in one comic. I'm good. No, you end up putting her in several comics. Not only that, you create 3 more heroes, super people, who's trying to stop every Transformer. Then you decide to create a super group with Circuit Breaker and these 3, working for the government. It is literally a mess. And mind you, the company that's making it is owned by Marvel, so they could have thrown in any Marvel hero or villain. But they end up creating original characters. Like I believe there were 2 actual human villains that could defeat Transformers. And vice versa, you could have put any of these heroes and villains into a Marvel comic book as a guest character. No payoff. Nada. I don't get it. They did well in the beginning. And I was okay with having Spike on the cartoon and his cousin Sam Witwicky in the comic book. I would have loved for Spike to be in there, but maybe it was a family thing. You got used to the Spike on the cartoon and Sam in the comics. Then you introduce Spike in the comics for a short period of time. And then Spike disappears. When Spike is there, Sam disappears. When Spike disappears, Sam comes back for a couple of comics, then he disappears. And then you introduce, I'm pretty sure Carly was there, but in the cartoon she was Spike's girlfriend. In the comic she was Sam's girlfriend, which literally made no sense. We never got Carly or Daniel outside of the comic after the movie comic tie-in. Insane. Like I said, it was literally all over the damn place. So saying that, I also picked up Shogun Warriors number 2. Shogun Warriors number 3. And Shogun Warriors number 6. There is a lot of Shogun Warrior comics though. I think as much as Godzilla. Godzilla had 24. I think Shogun has 21. So I'm like 3/4 there. But I'm getting there. That's the point. And surprisingly, all of these were pretty damn cheap. So I'm pretty happy. Definitely want to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Do I get more comics? Do I find more Funkos? So I would say there might be more toys. In all actuality, I am only looking for 2 more toys. Well, that's out now. Walmart exclusive, Todd McFarlane's Woman of Tomorrow Supergirl. However, I don't expect it to find it in Hawaii's Walmarts until August. And Ming the Merciless, but not the green one. For all of you who don't know who Ming is, he was the main villain of Flash Gordon, old comic, old live action. And he was also the main villain of Defenders of the Earth, which featured Flash Gordon, the Phantom, a magician, I don't know his name, and a black demigod named Atlas. And this was in the 1980s. So definitely, if you're, talking about being anti-woke now, and not talking up about cartoons back then, the problem is you. I mean, honestly, they threw Atlas in just to throw in a black guy. And then they threw in the magician just to throw in somebody who can do magic. Flash Gordon made sense as the leader. He is, or was, the defender of the universe. Throw in Phantom, you got somebody who can talk with animals, has some power, agility, makes sense. Instead of Atlas, I would have thrown in Hercules. There is more stories of Hercules than there is of Atlas. More people know Hercules. And you could have made Hercules a little darker. Maybe made him a lighter black version. I don't really think anybody would have a problem with that. It's just these two really, there was no significance to either. The magician was called Mandrake. Honestly, I would have, if I was going to do something, I would have created a character, made him the son of Merlin. And then, of course, the opportunity of him not being in full control of his powers yet, but he's the most powerful magician ever because he is Merlin's son. Stories could have wrote themselves. I mean, I would have added in one more person, possibly a woman, an Amazon, maybe, I don't know. You know, Flash Gordon was a superhero from the 1970s to the 1980s. He really had no superpowers. Just bravery, highly skilled, can fly any device, or can use any device. Why not throw in somebody like Amelia Earhart, or that's why she disappeared? I mean, there is so much you could have done better with the series. I had more fun watching the Super Sentinels, and that sucked. But the 1970s and 1980s did have a lot of great superhero shows. Not only anime that was brought over from Japan, like Astro Boy, Gigantor, but we had Zorro, we had the Lone Ranger. Honestly, I would have loved to see that team up. Lone Ranger, Zorro, and Phantom. And supposedly the Shadow was created back then. You could have thrown him in. There, there was a lot of, damn, mighty Thor. Not Thor, but Thor. Samson and Samson and Goliath. Well, young Samson and Goliath from Hanna-Barbera. We had some great production companies back then. Space Ghost. I think Space Ghost would have fit with Flash Gordon. The Herculoids. A lot of people don't know how many mystery cartoons we had back then. One of my favorites way back when that a lot of people have never heard of is Devlin, who was basically Evel Knievel. He had his best friend who fixed his bike, and his little sister, and they'd go town to town doing stunts, but also it was, I guess, a drama mystery that they would solve mysteries every now and then. The Chan Clan, Fangface, Jabberjaw, the Archies, Josie and the Pussycats, Scooby-Doo. Honestly surprised Blue Falcon didn't go further. We had a lot of swords. Black Star and the Power Sword. Well, Black Star had the Star Sword. His nemesis, Overlord, had the Power Sword. And you could unite them and create the Power Star. United, the sword looked ugly. It was actually made of a hard crystal. And they both looked the same. It was a hard crystal that went straight down, but was kind of a sword-like thing. And then the bottom came out to probably about this big, and there was another, maybe like 3 hand grips, had a longer piece. The kit was this big. And then if you put them together, it literally was a pain in the butt. Thundar the Barbarian and the Sun Sword. He-Man with the Power Sword. I love that the Thundercats had the Sword of Omens. You know, Funimation created He-Man, created She-Ra, and created Brave Star. And so they did say that all 3 was somewhat in the same universe. I think, or is it the same galaxy? Whatever's the bigger. There was just in the different of these smaller ones. Miss opportunity. Also, Silverhawks, Thundercats, and Tiger Sharks were all made by the same production company and same actors. Same writers. Again, miss opportunity. So, you know, my question to you guys is, if you could bring back one old cartoon, although everything would be up to today's standards, meaning graphics, meaning writing, which is not a good thing. A lot of the writers today couldn't hold anything to the guys of the past. But what would you want to see? A reboot or remaster? cartoon, TV series, 1970s, 1980s, early 90s. You know, we did get a reboot of the Bionic Woman. Honestly, I liked the reboot. Wish they introduced the $6 Million Man. The reboot itself, I think, only had 13 episodes and never got a second thing. We had a lot of old TV shows. I mean, the A-Team did well, Knight Rider. We had 3 reboots, Team Knight Rider, Knight Rider. Unfortunately, they all fell flat. Airwolf, Blue Thunder. Would a reboot of them be any good? CW did a reboot of Kung Fu. So growing up, I loved Kung Fu. I didn't understand why a white guy was a priest. But when you learn the whole story, whatever. David Carradine did well anyways. I loved the series. I loved the sequel. Kung Fu, The Legend Continues, where they introduced his son that was never mentioned in the original because he thought the son died. And then they rebooted with a girl that literally only lasted, I think, 1 season because the show sucked so bad. I don't blame the actors and actresses. They did the best they could. The show just couldn't live up to the original. The ideas of what they made the original great. They literally took the original, the beginning part, but turned Kane into a girl. But the original was, after the temple burned down, Kane came to America and then traveled around America helping people. In the new version, she came to America because this is her home. She stayed in one city. She did help people, but not the way Kane did. It was just her fighting crime. Well, Kane's was, but the original was basically him trying to find himself, find his path, but at the same time helping others find their path. Yeah, the sequel is more like the reboot, but it was centered around the son instead of Kane. But Kane was still helping people, even when his son didn't want to. So, I mean, the sequel could go both ways and tell different stories, which was great. It was paying homage to what was before, as well as adding in new stuff that could, I guess, build on and input more action. So the 80s, 90s people would see it instead of just the story. Honestly, I think a lot of shows back then wouldn't stand up to what today is because they were really focused on the story. I mean, if you look at Lou Ferrigno, Incredible Hulk, these stories were well written. The stories were great. Action scenes was great, but I mean, the action scenes was maybe at the most 5 minutes, literally 2 to 3 minutes, with everything else being story. In today's television, it would be reversed. Highway to Heaven, Little House on the Prairie. I think that's why a lot of sitcoms fail. It's not on the actors and actresses, but on society as we've evolved. Fuller House, okay, I think that was somewhat close to the original. It was missing bits and pieces of drama. So, a little of the story, but not much of the story. But if you look at everything else, story would not survive in today's world. If you look at MASH, something that was iconic back then, something that survived all the way to the end. You know, a lot of people would get very upset with Klinger. The guy that was trying to get out of the military by wearing dresses. Oh my god, drag. It didn't bother us back then. Now it bothers you. There was no sexual things, but there was sexual jokes and references, and I don't know how well that would hold up. I mean, in today's world, there's a lot of it on TV, but nothing like the sharp jabs of the past. I think that's what made all the shows back then so great, was the writing, the story, and how the actors could bring it out. Like even Airwolf. Literally, the action was always at the end. If there was something in the show, it was basically 2 minutes. The action at the end was 3 to 5 minutes. Everything else was story. People would get bored. I think that's why streaming service is doing really well, because you can actually fast forward stuff you don't want to watch. Part of me does want to go back to the old days, and part of me realizes that we can't. Honestly, that's a lot of reasons why I'm collecting these, is because nostalgia. But that's just me. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for staying tuned. Lots of stuff coming. Not sure if I'm doing a mailbox next week. We'll see what happens. Definitely planning to do some stuff. Got some Lego stuff that I need to put out. Just stay tuned. Take care, guys. Be safe. Try to have fun and not let things bother you. Do the best we can. Be the best we can. Aloha.